Yeah, it's been a hot day, a long week and a hot day, and that tastes great. Well, I'm on the committee, and I'm a participating sculptor in the display. Yeah, about 4 years ago, I had convinced the mayor to meet with me real briefly over an idea that I had. And I told him about my trip to Sioux Falls and told him what I'd learned about David Smith and just how cool the display was in Sioux Falls. And I just kind of told him I thought we should try something like that. At one point, I believe it was 2010, I had gone out to Sioux Falls and taken some sculptures out to Sioux Falls for the Sioux Falls Sculpture Walk. I came back to Decatur. When I was out there, I thought it was great, really cool. And came back to Decatur and talked with the mayor, John Schultz, just about what I'd seen out there and just asked him if what we had to do to even think about getting something like that started. So John, Mr. Schultz was, I say this because he doesn't like it when I call him that. Mr. Schultz was pretty honest with me and just told me he knew nothing about art, but he thought that it was a great idea. So he ended up calling over Larry Macklin, who's in charge of the Adams County Economic Development. The three of us talked a little bit, and it's kind of odd. It's a little known fact that David Smith was born in Decatur, and I don't think anybody really even remotely cares about that unless you're specifically a metal sculptor. The reason that's important is because David Smith was the first American sculptor to use welding as a technique to actually make sculptures. In my mind, it almost makes Decatur the birthplace of modern sculpture. Well, I make sculptures. They're made out of steel, and I think I do things the very long way, and I'm not sure why. I think it gives me a little bit more control. But anyways, I usually start with a raw piece of metal, whether it's a round rod, a flat bar, or a sheet of metal, and I just cut it down to a small shape. And actually, I keep doing that for weeks, and until I have a large pile of shapes that are organized, and probably spray paint, other tools, things, I can't find anything anywhere. I don't know, I sculpt figures. I started sculpting a lot of video game themed pieces, and actually that's my favorite thing to sculpt, is anything that is video game themed. And I think that's the part of sculpture where I get to kind of really sculpt something that's my personality. I play a lot of video games. I don't know how else to put it. I wish that I played less video games because I would create more sculptures. But at the same time, if I didn't play video games, some of my favorite sculptures would have never been made. So I guess it's kind of an even trade-off as far as that goes. I really like to keep everything kind of lighthearted, and if I can, try to make it a little bit fun. But for the most part, I like sculpting figures that are reaching for something, or trying to get, trying to reach out or strive to achieve something, and at the same time, the reason I do that is because it puts a little bit of movement in the sculpture, so it's not a big heavy piece of steel that doesn't look like it's moving. The favorite, let's see, the favorite parts of my sculpture walk, right off the bat, I have to say, being around other sculptors. It's not too often that there's not a lot of sculptors floating out and around, so when you can get a group of them together, that's always a treat, because for the most part, everybody's doing something different, so it's better than getting to go to a museum, because you're getting to not only see the piece, but you're getting to meet the artist. And most of these sculpture walks last for a couple days, so you get to spend some good quality time with the rest of the sculptors, and what starts out as a you know, a simple acquaintanceship oftentimes turns into a pretty valued friendship. A lot of these guys that I'd met several years ago, we stay in touch and actually see each other more often than not. And you know, it's nice to be able to meet someone that's got the same goals that you have, but they might be going about it in a different way. At the same time, a little bit of friendly competition is always a good thing, because they've always had this idea that whether you're in a sport or you're trying to do something that requires a little bit of skill, you're only as good as the people that you practice with. So just by getting to be around these artists and see their work, it will give you ideas. And once you see some of the pieces that these guys are creating, or ladies, you know, you have to come up with something better than you did the year before to be able to display next to these other artists. That friendly competition is, it's not really a competition, but it's a way of encouraging yourself to, like we had talked about earlier, to hopefully be able to see some progression in your work in one way or another. There's a whole list of things that, like I said, letting there be something to do around the downtown area and something to look at. After that, everything else is kind of a bonus.